I can recall this time last year as we were preparing to meet all of our students back on campus all together for the very first time since March of 2020.
The beginning of the year was absolutely joyful for us. We still had some measures, COVID measures, of course, but kids were all together on campus. And finally, they felt the sense of community.
That first half of the year was probably like the best half of the year of my entire life, because I just felt like life was going back to normal after all the craziness in the past 2 years. And at some points you'd even forget that COVID was a thing, even though we were wearing masks the entire time. It just felt like there was a stronger sense of community finally after being apart for so long.
And we all felt at that time that there was light at the end of the tunnel. And so things were going very positively.
At the beginning of the year, it was pretty much the same as it had been for a number of years since 2014. The tensions were not high. They were no higher than normal because it felt like it was so far away. The major concerns at that time were the pandemic.
Then we started to be a little bit more worried about, because everything just were coming closer and closer to us. But I never believed that the war would ever begin.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't believe in any of it. Like, I've been living in Ukraine for my entire life. For the past 8 years, we had been getting threats all the time, every single year.
We started to talk about it at school. You were hearing people in the corridor talking about this satellite imagery of the troops building up on the border, and it was laying under the surface the whole time. And every now and again it would rise because many people were saying, be calm, nothing will happen. There's no way that we'll be seeing anything of this kind of level of seriousness, so we must not overreact. And so yes, a certain sense of nervousness began to build around that very time.
At the beginning, we constantly received some bomb threats, and we had some more meetings, more conversation about that, and everything just became more and more realistic, because one thing you know something from the news, and another thing you have it real. So there were some additional trainings for the staff, for all the teachers, for the kids, discussions how we can protect them in case of something.
So we had prepared for this, and we'd sent out communications explaining what our actions would be in case A, B, or C might happen. And when the embassies started to recommend that their nationals left, of course we supported that entirely. And the vast majority of our overseas hire teachers decided that it was the right moment to leave. So I think we had only 16 of over 70 overseas hires left after that first announcement from the embassies that people should leave the country.
First, it was American embassy, then British, and then Canadian. And I think this was hard to explain to the kids why some people are leaving.
We maintained very frequent meetings together via Zoom. We adjusted to the different time zones, so we had some calls in the morning, some in the evening. We did everything we could to pull together. Of course, people felt discombobulated. They felt confused. They felt a sense of grief. But at that time, I honestly believe that most people thought that they would be back soon. I woke up very early. It was, I think, 4 a.m. and took a look at my phone and saw a barrage of messages. And they were from colleagues who were still in the city saying that there were explosions. We realized this was something huge because we're talking about Kyiv. We're talking about the capital city.
On the 24th, on the very early morning, we woke up. I was at home in central Kyiv with my son. And we said, okay, what do we do? We said, okay, let's leave. And then we stayed the first night in Rivne, which is about 350 kilometers west of KYIV. And we woke up there then in the morning, and the airport there was being bombed. So we went further west. There was a new hotel. It had a basement, which at that time was so important to have a basement, because every time the air raid sirens go off, you need to go down into the basement for cover. We were very lucky because that basement had Wi-Fi, and we could continue to work out of there.
The directors were working, I'm not kidding you, tirelessly to help not just their overseas hires, but to help their local hires and their families safely get out of the country.
My strongest memory of this is, again, as a foreigner who had already evacuated, I'm in the luxurious situation of only having been woken up by text messages and phone calls, not by, the air sirens and the bombs. It was truly the worst time in my life, when you're getting these messages and people are not safe. And sorry, you're taking me back there now. But I had people call me and say goodbye. The school has always responded like that. Our school was one of the first in line in terms of responding to COVID. And then with this situation, it was impressive, but not surprising.
It was remarkable and at least some small relief in that sense for people that they had that support.
I felt like a really crappy parent at that moment. I mean, you can't do everything, but you just, I wasn't able to, because I was 24, literally, around 20 hours a day, sitting in front of my computer doing things. And I couldn't be the parent that I wanted to be. And the school and teachers really stepped into that role. They were the ones that were the support. At least I knew she had a connection. My daughter had a connection with somebody from our world every single day. They fought alongside everybody else by taking care of our children and allowing us to do what we needed to do.
Because they needed to see their friends at the screen alive and safe.
It was clear that the staff was so focused on making sure that all of our education is still given to us. Your emotional, your physical state, all of it was going absolutely insane. But, you like to have one thing that is stable and that doesn't change. And for me, and I think for everyone at PSI, that was education.
And unbelievably, we also managed to get the support. Again, this is the International School Network of Care and Proactivity. We managed to get counsellors in every single classroom alongside our own teachers.
They were helping us on every single session. And for kids, it was a good opportunity to see each other, to feel connected, to know that they're not alone, that everybody is safe in different locations all over the world.
That was something that they were still getting an enormous amount of personal connection that was clear and obvious in the interactions that we observed.
I dropped into classrooms online that day to see how people were doing. And, the conversations were difficult. The conversations were complicated. But you could tell that the children felt relieved.
It was super amazing, how all the schools from all over the world, they started to text us immediately, guys, do you need help? We can offer this, we can volunteer to do this, this, and this. We can take your kids, no worries.
It's automatic. It's in our nature to step forward and say, how can we help? How can we preserve this? How can we keep it from no longer existing? And so the response time frame for schools saying, we're ready to take your kids, we're ready to accept you, we're all here. But we were also firmly ready to turn our gym into a dormitory if that's what it took. I think it was 48 hours and we had a board resolution that said we will accept all CISA students from CISA schools sans tuition for the remainder of the school year, space available.
So I remember talking to our school director and she said, the American School of Law are accepting our kids on scholarship. And I think I cried because I was like, Okay, thank God. There's something, right?
And at the end of that month, that's when, at a meeting that I was sitting in on with Rachel and with the director of the American School of Warsaw, John Zerflu, that's when it was first floated, the idea that, hey, maybe you should think about having a small campus on our campus in Warsaw.
His board, with his guidance and support and all of the information he'd provided, I guess, didn't hesitate either. They just said, yes, let's make it happen.
Then the creative juices just start flowing, and you say to your facility guys, what can we bring on and what can we do? And all of a sudden it's all there. It's a mini version of our school that just becomes part of it, that just becomes woven into it.
I just thought that was so exciting, knowing that we were likely going to be in Warsaw. The fact that we could have that continuity was really exciting.
I think this is what we've always hoped and expected, but only up to now hoped, and it hasn't been tested. But now that we've seen what schools and communities will do to help others,
I think this has been what's really been inspirational to me, that literally everyone is rallied to take care of each other.
I've just come from outside where our own structures that have been assembled, our purpose-built village, which we're calling our DEAM, our PSI home, it's ready. We have to now get our furniture in and make it look beautiful and inviting and warm for our students. But we've done it, we're here.
They are a really extraordinary example of how you can take a difficult situation and continue to provide quality learning and well-being and care and support for students under the most strange and difficult circumstances.
This is a very resilient school, resilient community, and we live in a resilient country. I think maybe PSI is a little bit of an analogy for Ukraine. You know, I don't think that every country, every school could have handled things in this way.
And it's so amazing to be a part of it and like know that, you know, telling all my friends here that, you know, even through the war, I had a school that continued going, and I had teachers that no matter what, they'd wake up every day at 5 a.m. in the morning. It's amazing about how much they're willing to do for us. So I'm so proud to be a part of PSI and I have been for the past 10 years, because, you know, it's the number one thing that I think taught me to be determined and to never give up.
The need is now more than ever. It's so important. It's so necessary. It's so vital that a good school, you know, continues. So I'm very grateful to PSI, you know, for everything that they're doing, for focusing already on the future, on the youth, getting ready to rebuild Ukraine.
And for me, it's about PSI being back in Kyiv to support the restructuring of Ukraine, because families will need an international school to be there, and we want to be there to serve that community and to help with the effort, which is fundamentally important for Ukraine and honestly for the rest of the world.
We need people to not forget that and to remember, and I think continue to do the wonderful things that they've been doing, which is just, you know, offering sort of friendship and partnership and helping to solve really practical problems. Hopefully we'll all be back in KYIV where we all want to be.
So we need help because our numbers have reduced drastically, of course. We have great reserves, but they won't last forever. And our good financial management has allowed us to do the project that we're doing this year together with help from our friends. But looking again, as we always do, into the further future, we want to plan for ongoing scenarios, whether it is more time in Warsaw or whether it's a continuation in Warsaw and opening Kyiv campus, which we really hope is the case, and then in the future a gradual return there. We want to be able to do that whilst still providing the high quality of staff and the wonderful quality of resources in our programming. And we need some help right now. For the first time ever, we need some very special help with financing.